Welcome into the Dallas Cowboys Dynasty Review, looking at everything from 2023 and beyond in terms of Dynasty for the Cowboys. We approach it from a super flex point of view, so keep that in mind. And we were talking at the end of our last video, the Browns one, where I said it was a disappointment. You said it's expected, Brian, which I understand. We should expect it, but it did feel different this year for the Cowboys. But it did not end differently. But in terms of fantasy, how you looking? How we feel about these guys? I feel like we're pretty high on a lot of these guys on this team.
Yeah, I mean they're a pretty good team, pretty complete, at most positions. And yeah, like I did kind of talk smack about them a little bit on the last video. I'm just trying to get someone to call me a clown again. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to talk about the team too much as a whole. I want to get into these individual players.
Yep. They did go 12-5. Of course, they lost their first playoff game to the Packers, and it was just weird. They got so blown out, like their defense just collapsed. I don't know. It was strange. Mike McCarthy did hold on to his job, even though we expected him to get fired. Dan Quinn did leave, the defensive coordinator. He's now the head coach of the Washington Commanders. So something to pay attention to. They are $14 million over the cap, so $14 million in the hole, which is 25th best or worst, however you want to look at it. They have all their draft picks, or they have 7 draft picks. I think they don't have their 4th, but and they don't have many free agents. The only really notable free agents at the fantasy positions is Pollard and Rico Dowdle. They're 2 running backs, number 1 and number 2. So we'll jump into it with Dak, who, he had a pretty crazy season. He started off where it's just like, man, what's wrong with Dak? And then he was awesome. He was like a top 3 quarterback to end, like from their bye week on, I believe. So, I don't know where. How are we feeling about Dak? I think he's rated as QB 14. I think that's totally fine. Like, I think he's a high end, super flex quarterback, obviously, like as your QB 1 or even QB 2. So, how are you feeling about Dak?
Yeah, I think the guys that are ranked in front of him is mostly given youth. I remember a couple of years ago when we started up our Dynasty League, like the big discussion was Russell Wilson versus Dak kind of a thing. Like they were kind of like right in that, I want to say like QB 8 maybe territory. And it's like, well, we kind of know who won out there more or less. Like, I think he's going to outperform where he's ranked right now. But again, like the guys in front of him, it's mostly because of youth, but I wouldn't be surprised if he, well, I guess I can't even really say that. Like I was going to say, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he outplays like the 6 guys in front of him, but it's like, well, it's not even like a hot take because he just did it. So yeah, definitely a good dude to have on your team.
Yeah, and it is kind of ridiculous to have him ranked like that low, I guess, because of age. It's like, yeah, he'll be 31 essentially to start the year. It's like he can still play at a high level easily for a few more years. And again, we got to kind of stop looking at Dynasty from beyond a couple of years anyways. So, I think it's a little crazy that he's behind guys like Tua, even Brock Purdy, like Trevor Lawrence, because I think he could beat out all those guys this year, like you said. So there's going to be a little bit of hate as well. Like people just like to hate the Cowboys, so that's always part of it as well, I think, to a certain extent. But yeah, not a whole lot to talk about. Just like a high-end quarterback in Superflex, especially. What are you gonna say?
Maybe I was gonna say maybe this isn't super shocking, but he's only 2 years older than Mahomes, which is kind of like I would have not have guessed that. I would have guessed 3 or 4. But then again, I don't really know guys' ages necessarily. Like, I just feel like Dak's been around forever because he kind of has,
I think they're only one draft apart.
Yeah,
So,
see, that's surprising to me. But
yeah, Dak was 2016, Mahomes 2017. So, but then
maybe I'm just dumb.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or a clown.
Cooper Rush, I guess. I don't know. Like, I know he came in and played well, but like, it doesn't excite me to keep him. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much there. No, I don't think there's much to talk about there. Like, we saw him be somewhat okay a couple of seasons ago. Like, as far as like for the team, not so much for fantasy. I don't think there's a whole lot there.
Yeah. Now, the guy to talk about, and I put him on a buy low video, was Trey Lance. I think it's ridiculous that you can get Trey Lance for a 4th-round pick, and I would, in a heartbeat, do that because I think there's almost a 0% chance this guy does not at least get 1 year to prove if he's good or not. He hasn't had anything. I know he's hardly played in his career. So right now he's valued as like, the 312 in this year's draft. I will do that 100%. I think, and we haven't even really been talking to him, and it kind of just hit me like a couple of days ago. It's like, why are we thinking about Trey Lance? We're talking about Fields and Russell Wilson and where are these guys going to go, and Kirk Cousins, stuff like that. It's like, why don't we talk about Trey Lance? Like, Dallas, maybe they keep him around. Like, they're going to roll with Dak for several more years. Like, maybe they can get some value from Trey Lance. I don't know if they can get from more than what they traded for. Maybe that's why they keep him. But like, what if Minnesota makes an offer for him and he becomes Minnesota's quarterback? Like, I think it's sneaky. We could hear Trey Lance as a starting quarterback this year. So I would 1,000% trade a late 3rd or a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. Not sure how you're feeling there, Brian.
Yeah, I think I think that is kind of interesting because I haven't thought about Trey Lance in a year, or a little more than a year. Yeah, that could be pretty sneaky. Because like his value is obviously tied to his like rushing ability and stuff. We haven't seen much from him because of situation / injuries. And obviously, given where he is now, like, if that changes, like, that is kind of interesting to think about. I was going to say something else about him, and it totally escaped me.
I mean, if he doesn't play, like, if he doesn't get a season to play, like, he would be. There's never been a quarterback that's been drafted in like maybe in the 1st round, maybe in like definitely in like the top 10. Where like they just at least didn't get a X amount of games. I think Drew was it Josh Rosen? I think it was. I'm forgetting his name now. Josh Rosen before Kyler.
Okay, yeah,
before Kyler was probably the one that had like the least amount of games played as a 1st-round pick. And I think he still got almost a full season, 13 games in one season, 3 in another starting. So I just think it's ridiculous to think this guy's not at least going to get a chance. So I'll take that for whatever pick, trash pick I can send.
I know what I was going to say. I think that there's probably like a lot of like sunk cost fallacy with Trey Lance. And so I think if you just go out and offer whoever has him a 4th-round pick or a late 3rd, like, maybe the 3rd is more appealing. Well, I mean, it's definitely more appealing than a 4th. But I was going to say you might want to like try and have him as a throw-in kind of, just so like you're not kind of like showing your cards quite as much. Like, I think that's kind of the way to get these like lower end players that people might not want to let go of just yet, or they're like, oh no, I can't give up Trey Lance, but. If you're making like a pretty, good deal, a pretty fair deal, you could probably get him as a throw-in piece and not have the person blink quite as much.
Mm-hmm. unless that person wasn't the person that drafted him, right? So they picked him up off of waivers or something ridiculous. But I totally agree.
I'm gonna look and see if he might even be on waiver wires. Like at this point, like.
Yeah, I hope not. And I'm not even saying he's gonna be good. Just saying like he'll get a chance and he'll run the ball, so he'll be good for fantasy. So, freaking Justin Fields was awesome, and he was throwing for like 150 yards a game. So yeah, Trey Lance, buy low on him, pick him up off waivers to there. Tony Pollard, man, what a disappointment he was. Like I thought he was gonna smash. Everyone thought he was gonna smash, and he didn't. So he's fallen all the way to RB23. Just another lesson that we learned where, like, if you're valuing him as a top 5 running back, that's probably the highest you're ever going to get. Maybe sell him, but I understand keeping him because you thought he was going to smash. Is he back with the Cowboys, do you think? Or do you think the leg, he did break his leg in the playoffs or, at the end of the year in 2022? Like, was that part of the reason why he wasn't good? Or is it just he needs to be in a 15-touch kind of game or role, 12 to 15-touch kind of role, and he can't be the workhorse? Like, what do you think is most likely?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because like he had a pretty similar stat line to what he did the year before, but it's because of where we drafted him last year. Like that's why he was the disappointment. Still finished as RB15. Like I think part of the thing about him is maybe he just wasn't, and I feel like they said this in the 2022 season, if I'm remembering correctly, where they were kind of like, I think they like walked it back a little bit too, but they kind of talked about him as far as like, well, he can only handle so much, kind of was like kind of the gist of it. I don't remember exactly what or who said it. Was one of the coaches. Might have been McCarthy. I don't remember. But they were like, there was some kind of like allusions to like, oh, like, yeah, like he's kind of like he can't handle the workload is kind of how it was interpreted, which isn't what exactly they said, like, but he was the dude. Like, I don't think he was definitely disappointing based on, being drafted as like RB 5 or something like that. Yeah, so I think that if he's still on the Cowboys, like I think he'll still be successful. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in, like a real like smash mouth type of dude, like to put in front of him, and he kind of goes back to his role, like he was in 2022, where he was really good behind Ezekiel Elliott. But that's kind of, the Cowboys are kind of telling you something there, like just when he was playing with Zeke still 2 years ago, that he was behind him and like very much involved still, but not the 1A type of guy. He was more of the 1B type of guy, and he can totally succeed in that type of role.
Yeah. It is crazy though, because like it's just funny. Like he had more, it basically had almost the same season as 2022, although 6 less touchdowns, but 15 more catches. So that in PPR that cancels out a couple of those touchdowns, but the touchdowns was the big one. But in terms of the yards, but man,
yeah,
what a disappointment was.
Yeah, I think part of it is like he was way less efficient too. He had 60 more carries and finished with 2 less rushing yards as he did the previous year. So that's like a huge, it's like literally you got 30% more work and finished basically the same. So I think that's part of it too. Like people were probably watching him where it's like, dude, like do Tony Pollard things, and he just wasn't. So
yeah, for sure. I don't know where he goes. It's really interesting to see. Like he's probably one of the bigger names. I don't know the 2024. I know like Derrick Henry is one of them, but I don't know how many running backs are necessarily. There's a decent amount. Henry, Jacobs, Pollard, Saquon, Eckler. Those are big names. So it'll be interesting to see where they go if he gets into a nicer situation. Like what if Pollard goes to the Chargers and people are going to be back up high on him again. So I I don't really think there's anything else to talk about with the running backs. I mean, Rico Dowdle, this is probably the best situation he was going to be in. Was like the RB2 for Dallas. He's a free agent. I could see them bringing him back because like they maybe trust him, but I don't know. I don't think he's really going to. If he's the RB2, he probably deserves to be rostered for sure. But so probably a hold for now because almost all RB2 should be rostered. But yeah, there's he would need an injury type of guy, right? So
I think so. I mean, he just finished his 4th year in the league, and we've seen nothing from him up until this year. And like you said, like I don't think his situation gets much better than what it was, where the guy in front of him was not super efficient, and they still, I mean, obviously, like the offense was not running through the run game. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say past that.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn, liked him in college. Dude was awesome. Like he's tiny though. Like you see him on the field, he's like so small. Was he 5'6"? Yeah, 5'6", 176 pounds. So he's small. I don't think he's ever going to have a full role. Ceedee Lamb, not much to say. Dude's awesome, amazing. Like he had a better season than we've been talking about it. He should be in that, like, to me, it should be Jefferson, Ceedee Lamb, Chase, and there's an argument for any of the three to be the wide receiver one. So especially given we don't know who Jefferson's quarterback is. So yeah, Ceedee Lamb was awesome. He's had a better season than any of those guys. So he was really awesome. I don't know is there anything else to say besides he's awesome?
No. He's awesome.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks, they have a potential out on him. A little disappointing, I'd say, huh? Like I think we expected a little bit more from Cooks. I guess we didn't realize Lamb was going to be like, an 1,800-yard receiver. I was expecting a little more from Cooks. I don't know if you were. He did have 8 touchdowns, so that's definitely something. But we're talking about a guy now who is he'll be 31 basically at the beginning of the season next year, and we've seen 2 down years now. Hasn't gotten over 700 yards. Probably done, right?
Yeah, like he's done. Like I really like him as a player in general, and honestly, like I don't really think we've seen a whole lot from the wide receiver 2 since Amari Cooper and Ceedee Lamb were both there, and I don't even know what that season looked like necessarily. Like on Dallas, I mean. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Like there's such like a high-powered like offense in general. And they don't seem to support more than, one guy kind of a thing. Like, obviously, there's the tight end involvement, which we'll get to. But I think it's kind of funny. I think this kind of plays into, like, what you talk about. Like, this guy finished as tight end 3 kind of a thing. Or, sorry, tight end, like, 6 or 7. And this is what he did. But, like, Brandon Cooks, the reason I bring that up is because he finished as wide receiver 36. Mm-hmm. So technically, like in a start 3 receiver, especially with flex, it's like he was startable, quote unquote. But you weren't happy starting him. Unless you got a touchdown, like it was a total like just like bust situation, like 5 points or less, kind of a thing. Yeah. So yeah, he definitely never helped you at all because. Unless you just so happen to be starting him out of desperation on one of those weeks. So, he's
best ball or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. Best ball. But yeah, he's done. If you can't get anything for him, I doubt it. Like, what wide receiver number is he?
I'm not
like 70. Yeah,
like 74. Yeah, he was in the best situation. What better situation could he go to? Like the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys, who were the number 1 scoring offense this year. Like
for sure. Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Michael Gallup's kind of in the same boat. Like we saw one good year from Michael Gallup now all the way back in 2019, I believe. So
wow.
Yeah, it's his 1,100-yard season, 2019. So we're talking about 4 seasons of. I mean, he was okay in 2020, but yeah, I mean, 3 straight seasons of under 500 yards. He's a roster clogger. Jalen Tolbert is not going to probably pan out. Roster clogger. This is a candidate. This team's a candidate to bring in a second weapon, wide receiver weapon, or draft someone. I think, which will be exciting. I think. They do have Racy McMath on their team. Kind of a cool name.
Who?
Racy McMath.
Oh, since we're talking about cool names,
Yeah.
they got Snoop Connor on their team, who was a
Yeah.
Jacksonville running back drafted 2 years ago. I just remember him because my wife was very much like, "Oh, I'm going to draft this guy in the 4th round of the rookie draft because his name is Snoop."
Yeah.
Which is like a really dumb way to draft, you know.
Mhm.
But it's really funny though too, because I totally do that shit too.
Yeah. I mean, he was a 5th-round pick, so there was hope. No, yeah, Racy McMath. There's another cool name. Well, we'll get to it. And the tight ends, like Jake Ferguson, we talked about him. I think he's a sell candidate. Like he's all the way at tight end, 8? To me, that's like I'm going to sell or tear down and pick up tight end 10. I'm going to tear down and pick up a piece if I can from Ferguson to Musgrave or Ferguson to Freiermuth or Goddard or something like that and pick up a 3rd-round pick even, and I'll happily do that. But, if I go into the season, needs my tight end 1, whatever. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I think kind of the only reason. Well, I mean, you can't really say that. I was going to say it's what I was about to say was like that he. It's more situation than talent, but that's not exactly fair to see because we just saw it, kind of a thing. But it's definitely more that I can't even say more. Like I don't want to discount the dude's talent because he was good. But yeah, we just know the Dallas tight end situation in general, and so yeah, like I think it's kind of like it's like what was it, Dalton Schultz a couple years ago. It was Schultz, right?
For what?
On the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So I mean, we just know the tight ends are involved. Like they're very much like red zone targets. Like I know, like he was very high in red zone targets in general, especially like early on in the season. I don't know if that really held up, but yeah, definitely startable. I think it's kind of crazy. Like I'm just noticing, like he only had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I kind of would have, if you would have asked me how many he had, I would have guessed like 8 or 9. Obviously, I didn't really start him very much last year, but I think that's kind of promising to see that he started, like he finished as tight end 8 with only 5 touchdowns. I can definitely see that going up, but yeah, not someone I'm necessarily going after, but I'm happy if he's on the team for sure.
Yeah, definitely. 5 touchdowns. He was one of the top red zone targeted players, not just tight ends, for the entire year. So yeah, he didn't catch as many as you would have thought. I think he had potentially a 2 touchdown game as well. But yeah, he is what he is.
Single, but
okay.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like, oh, almost touchdowns by Ferguson kind of a thing. Like, yeah.
Luke Schoonmaker, pick him up in 2025 of November of 2025 when Ferguson's having another good year and they don't want to pay him a bunch of money and they just roll with Schoonmaker and he's the new Ferguson and Ferguson's the new Dalton Schultz. So that's my prediction there. Although he was a 2nd-round pick, so I just don't know if you can afford to hold him given the rookie draft coming up.
Yeah, I think he's like one of those guys like where I might pick him up if he was available on waivers, but which I think he probably will be kind of soon. Like definitely like over this next like 2024 season, I can see a lot of people dropping him and I think you're spot on there. Like, you probably don't even have to buy low on him. Like, you can probably just get him for free. And yeah, Ferguson will be gone, like you said, because they won't pay him.
Yeah. And then Princeton Fant is Noah Fant's cousin. So he's on this team. Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for that.
Was that the other cool name? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was like something to mention. So I don't know if it's cool. I mean, Princeton is kind of a cool name, right? Like first name.
Yeah, dude, how good is their kicker? Like, he is awesome. Which is kind of wow. He's a 28-year-old, just finished his rookie season. Where the hell did this guy come from?
Yeah, I think he was like he just started I think he was a soccer player.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he was Toronto FC and Bethlehem Steel FC.
Signed out of the USFL in the off season. Wow. It's
yeah.
That's crazy.
And he was awesome. Yeah, he played professional soccer. So
set an NFL record this year by making 35 straight field goals to begin his career.
Yeah, he did end up missing one late in the season, but yeah.
Awesome. Apparently he missed his very first one in the NFL. Like, he missed. So that's kind of not fair to say that he made 35 straight to begin his career. That must be like a rookie stat sort of situation, because it's like, well, he didn't make his. I don't know. The way I read that is that he made his first 35, but apparently not. He made his second through 36 kicks in a row.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, I'm just trying to look up the stats, but I got into the football, soccer football reference. So, but yeah, he's great. But hopefully, Cowboys Super Bowl. Everyone's gonna. Have you seen the memes of like the Cowboy season cycle? It's like it starts here, like season starts, Cowboys start to play well, and everyone gets hyped up, and then I forget what the cycle is, but anyways, it ends with them with obviously a playoff disappointment, and the cycle keeps going. But that's probably for 90% of the teams anyways.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're in it consistently, like they are a good team. Like, you can't take that away from them. They just can't seem to finish, which is a bummer for those fans, like my wife's a Packers fan, and we actually watched that game at a sports bar on a beach in Hawaii this year. So that was awesome. I wish I would have added the Packers to win that game in my parlay for that week, because that would have been a nice payout to throw that in. But that just kind of shows you, like, no one really expected them to lose to the Packers, especially the way they did. Maybe it wasn't so completely surprising, but yeah, it's definitely a little shocking, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
The only meme that I can think of that I think you posted in one of our group chats, like, I don't know, last year or the year before, was like, it was like a picture of like a car on a freeway, and it was like the freeway sign said like to the playoffs, and then it said like, it was like an exit, it said like Cowboys leave here or something like that. I always thought that one stuck out to me. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So the cycle is season starts, looks unstoppable against bad teams. Everyone says this is our year. Wheels start to fall off and then choke at the playoffs. So
yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the sign actually said to Super Bowl is what it said, because they make the playoffs. Or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, you guys get it.
Yes. So we'll finish up there, and we will be back with those Packers. So. They'll be fun to talk about. As always, like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys next time.